Hello and welcome to the first episode of Mumbai Redevelopment Simplified. I am Nikhil Joshi. Today, everybody is talking about redevelopment, but let us understand how it happens and let's explore the single regulation that governs all the redevelopment happening in Mumbai. That is Section 33 of DCPR 2034. Now, Section 33 isn't just one single scheme. It is 8 different schemes, each scheme designed for different situations. So, if you are confused, your building will fall under which scheme? This episode is then answer. So, let us explore. First, let us understand what is DCPR. DCPR stands for Development Control and Promotion Regulation 2034. It is the master rulebook for Mumbai's urban development. It was notified after replacing the older DCR 1991. This is the modern, comprehensive, and detailed version of this particular regulation. So now the question comes, why was there a need for new regulation? Answer is simple. Mumbai has changed. There are aging buildings, the slums need rehabilitation, the infrastructure has displaced people. The DCR 1991 was not quite effective for all these things. So there was a need for new one. One of the important part of DCPR 2034 is Section 33. This section is entirely dedicated for redevelopment. There are multiple regulations under this section, that is 33.5, 33.7, 33.7a, 33.7b, 33.9, 33.10, 33.11, and 33.20b, all for different use. You might be asking, why so many schemes under one section? Answer is practical. Different buildings have different needs, different ownership structures, and face different constraints. One size fits all doesn't work here. For example, a 70-year-old MHADA built housing colony will have different rules than a 40-year-old private society. The slums have different rules than a formal building. And a building affected by infrastructure projects will need special provisions. So instead of creating different acts for each situation, government consolidated everything under one roof to make it more easier to navigate and create a coherent work framework. So under section 33, you have schemes for different buildings like cessed buildings, non-cessed buildings, slums, cluster development, PAP reallocation, self redevelopment, housing societies, each having its own rules but fall under same umbrella, section 33. So now, as you know, there are 8 schemes under this section, which is 33. So we'll understand each of them in detail in the further episodes. But here, I'll explain you in short what each scheme stands for. So the scheme one is DCPR 33.5, which is for MHADA cess buildings. Government development of MHADA built housing colonies. Residents of MHADA layouts. Government backing plus higher FSI for redevelopment. The scheme is active especially in suburbs. Scheme 2 is DCPR 33.7, which is for cessed buildings in the island city. Redevelopment of old cessed buildings which are mostly pagadi. Tenants who will get ownership flats post their redevelopment. FSI up to 2.5 to 3 depending upon the building age. This is a long-standing scheme, many completed projects. Scheme 3, DCPR 33.7a. This is for non-cessed buildings. Development of authorized tenant buildings. Tenants who will get ownership flats post redevelopment. Rehab plus 50% incentive FSI to the builder. This is a growing scheme, especially in suburbs. Scheme 4, which is DCPR 33-7B, is for housing societies. Redevelopment of regular housing societies. Apartment owners in the housing societies get modern amenities. Societies can also get 15% additional built up area or about 10 square meters of additional area, whichever is high. Most popular with housing societies. Scheme 5, 33-9, which is for cluster redevelopment. Redevelopment of multiple buildings together. Residents identified in cluster with minimum 70% consent. FSI up to 4 or higher. Complex but powerful for large-scale developments. Scheme 6, DCPR 3310 for slum rehabilitation. Free housing for slum developers through private developers partnership. Eligible slum residents, beneficiary based on residency cutoff. Pre 300 square feet apartments, developers profit from extra units that are sold. Actively accelerating through the new policy. Scheme 7, which is DCPR 3311. This is for clubbing and combination schemes. Combining multiple schemes or plot for better efficiency. Developers combine different schemes like SRA with society redevelopment. Flexibility to maximize viability and infrastructure. Used strategically to resolve complex situations. Scheme 8, DCPR 20P, which is for project affected people, PAP. Rehab of people displaced by metros, infrastructure projects, highways, and etc. Resident losing its home to public infrastructure projects. Mandatory PAP housing plus extra FSI for developer. Increasingly used as Mumbai expands infrastructures. There is something important. These schemes don't always work in isolation. At times, the developer might use multiple schemes. For example, he might use 33-7B, which is for housing societies rehabilitation, along with 33-20B, which is a PAP component. This is called clubbing. This is done under the regulation 3311 for better efficiency of the plot. Now, another example. There is a plot which is under 33.9, which has gone for cluster development. It might be combined with 3310, which is for slum redevelopment, because there might be some existing slums inside the plot. Now, why combine? Because one plot might have different situations, multiple situations, as we saw in the example earlier. It improves financial viability and it helps to improve the infrastructure plan. So now, because of these complexities, it is important to understand each of the schemes separately, which we would be doing in the next episodes. So to recap this episode, Section 33 of DCPR 2034 is the master regulation for redevelopment in Mumbai. It contains 8 different schemes Each schemes for different building for different situations. They work independently or in combination. Understanding your building category and the schemes would be your first step for redevelopment. In the next episode, we will deep dive into each of these schemes separately and understand what it is, what are the benefits, and what are the approval process for the same. So stay tuned for the further episodes.